Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. At long last, the secret scraps on Shadows of Evil have been pieced together. I'm dedicating a 15-minute video to talking about all the main themes included and wrapped up in the image, and that's going to be coming out just after this one. But first of all, I want to talk about one particular snippet of info from the image that is really quite exciting. And yes, it's a little bit of a prediction video, this, I suppose. Yes, it's also a bit of fantasy in a sense, and what I would really like to have happen in the future. But for now, let's call it a theory that is somewhat hopeful. I think that's probably the best way to approach this. Part of the beauty and mystique of the Zombies storyline is the fact that we can craft all these theories, and then they can be completely wrong, and it's completely fine. So this could well be wrong, and if it is, oh well, at least we had some fun thinking about it and postulating about the future. Without further ado, I'm going to dive into the details. P.S. Thumbs up. Click it. Okay, so, in front of you, as I'm sure you've noticed, there are 10 scraps of paper. That's the total number of them, but today we're actually only going to really be looking at one of them, the top left. As you can see, we have a solar system, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and then it would be Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, just as we're familiar with in our current real universe and real solar system. Anyhow, there's also a set of coordinates there. If you look in the other corners of the image, you'll notice that there are other solar systems and other coordinates. We're not going to focus on the other coordinates right now. In my other video, which is coming very soon, I'll be talking a bit about those others in more depth. For now though, one shall suffice. By simply transcribing those coordinates and searching them up, we can quite easily find a position on Earth which is being pointed to by this image, by the person that has written this note, who, and I will explain elsewhere why this is the case, I am presuming right now to be Dr. Edward Richtofen. So, alongside such statements as, how many years have we wasted searching in the wrong locations following the wrong leads? Alongside things like that, we also have this set of coordinates. This is where the coordinates point to on planet Earth. We're right next to the river in Volgograd in Russia. So, 5-second test. Can anybody tell me what the historical significance is of this location? 5, 4, no? Okay, so Volgograd was Stalingrad during World War II. I'm now going to take a risk, which could potentially fatally impact the viewer retention rates of this video. I'm going to give you a 60-second history lesson. Please don't let that scare you off. It's going to be fun. Don't worry, I'll make everything nice and clear, and it'll be worth it in the end. So, without further ado, this is the 60-second history of the Battle of Stalingrad during World War II. The Battle of Stalingrad took place between August 1942 and February 1943. Adolf Hitler, leader of the Nazi Party and Chancellor of Germany at the time, was confident that he could beat the Soviets into submission after the winter of 1942. In the build-up to the battle, both sides placed emphasis on the fact that Stalingrad bore the leader of Russia's name, Stalin. In fact, Hitler ended up actually rewriting his campaign objectives to include the occupation of the city. With me so far? Good. The fighting that ensued was amongst some of the bloodiest in history. Stalin ordered his forces that not a single step be taken backwards, and anyone strong enough to hold a rifle was sent into the fray. Overall, roughly 500,000 Soviets were killed, and another 500,000 made wounded or sick by the battle. The Axis casualties, that's Germany and her allies, were of a similar magnitude. Many consider it the turning point of World War II. From that point on, the Nazis declined and were eventually crushed. Boom! Would you look at that? A brief history of Stalingrad, as told by yours truly, MrRoflWaffles. However, this video is supposed to be a lot more than just a brief history lesson, so let's talk about history again, focusing on Call of Duty World at War. World at War contained the origins of a lot of the stories that we know and love right now in the Call of Duty Black Ops franchise. For example, in that game, we met Reznov for the first time, and actually followed him through the events of his life during the war. If you don't know who Reznov is, maybe you didn't play World at War and also didn't play Black Ops 1, then you're really missing out. He was a brilliant character, and some of the the stuff that he was involved in actually influenced, to lots of people's surprise, the Origins Easter egg. So you really should get to know him as a character if you're at all interested in the campaign modes of Call of Duty, really. He was really well written, played by Gary Oldman, absolutely great character overall. The gameplay you are watching on your screen right now is from Call of Duty World at War, specifically one of the missions in which you are with Reznov in Stalingrad during the battle. You regain consciousness with your comrades being murdered all around you by the Nazis, and end up fighting through the German forces with him for the duration of the level. It's a pretty damn iconic mission. The question I want to pose to you, the viewer, is as follows. Do you think that there is any chance that because of the fact that we have Richtofen around the time of World War II, namely when the Giant and Dries take place, so we're talking probably 1942, 1943, around then, something like that, Richtofen could, on his travels to try and find the summoning key, at some point have stopped off in Stalingrad, sorry, definitely not in Vorkuta. We know that Richtofen is traveling around. In fact, he's AFK, he's away from his group for about 2 years while he's on this quest for the summoning key. He says in the scraps of paper I showed you at the beginning of the video that it's key, there, no pun intended, to their survival and ultimately to him being able to convince the others that they need to kill themselves in order to put everything right. And so I think that there's a decent chance that in combination with the set of coordinates we've been provided with in the top left corner of those scraps, it's possible that Richtofen, in one of the many worlds that he visits, was in Stalingrad during World War II, during the battle. During the time that Reznov was there, you were there, fighting your way through the Nazi forces. And so, I'd like to take this one step further and say that, is it possible, and I really do think it is, that we'll be seeing either a cameo from Reznov at some point, or at least some reference to his character, some throwback, some tie-in with the character we know and love so much from Call of Duty World at War and Call of Duty Black Ops 1. At the minimum, at least a reference to him is something that I expect, really. I can confidently say that that is something that I can foresee happening without a doubt, but something I'd really like to see more is, well, is it possible to go even further still? And this is why I said at the beginning of the video that this is, I guess, kind of perhaps a little hopeful, but if we take those 4 sets of coordinates to be locations for our 4 DLCs, which is not exactly a massive jump of logic, it's also possible to say that maybe Reznov will be a playable character in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Zombies. Just imagine, let's set the scene, okay? So, first of all, let's talk quickly about Shadows of Evil. Richtofen jumps in and finds the summoning key in the hand of the Keeper just as you are averting the apocalypse on the map and completing the Easter egg. What if, in his search for the summoning key, Richtofen world hopped to various different worlds, because we know that there are multiple Earths as shown on those scraps of paper? What if he was world hopping and was going to specific points in time and place in which the events and course of history were changed at their very core by some deviation from what we know in real life to be what happens in our history on Earth? So what I'm saying is that Richtofen ends up finding the summoning key at a point in which history is changed massively on Shadows of Evil because an apocalypse is averted. What if previously, in his unsuccessful attempts to find the key, he went to a world where a similar thing was happening? An apocalypse was being averted, or maybe, in the case of the Battle of Stalingrad, maybe the Nazis began to win. If that were to happen, the planet would be changed completely. This is a world war in which Hitler is on a conquest for absolute power. He wants to establish a 1,000-year Reich. And if he manages to win this battle, maybe he manages to win World War II. Maybe he then manages to conquer absolutely everyone he needs to conquer in order to establish himself as a permanent ruler. Can you see why this would be so significant? Why it would be a turning point in the history of planet Earth and the human race as we know it? As such, I think that if we agree with the conditions that I previously mentioned, it's perfectly reasonable to say that Richtofen may well have been there. And if Richtofen is there hunting for the key, and if we end up getting a map with Richtofen and whoever he might have been with, or whichever group he might fall in line with, maybe one of those people will be Viktor Reznov. Wouldn't that be awesome? I personally think that would be really damn cool if we got a World War II zombies map set in Stalingrad, fighting going on all around us, but there's something wrong. Because rather than fighting between the forces of Nazi Germany and the Allies, we instead have zombies everywhere. Let me know in the comment section down below if this is something that you guys would like to see. I think it would be damn fun, and it would be a nice change from some of the more tight and enclosed and distant maps that we're used to. Shadows of Evil, for example, although it's part of a big city, kind of feels detached from the reality that we know, and I think that that's probably the point in the map. It would be nice to move away from that for some of the DLCs though, so like I said, let me know if you think that this would be fun downstairs in the comment section. Other than that though, I have been MrRoflWaffles. Thank you so much, by the way, for watching through to this point in the video. You're a trooper, you made it all the way. I'm gonna grant you a gold watermelon as a token of my thanks for your great accomplishment. And other than that, I think I'll see you next time, assuming of course that you've subscribed, in another Call of Duty Black Ops 3 video. Thanks for watching guys, bye bye.